So, on another, are we going to talk about Google? Are we going to do anything with Google? Or
We can.
You don't want to?
No, no, I'm cool.
You had enough about talking about Google?
Oh, well, you could say that I definitely have had enough of talking about it.
Yep.
But how exactly, and this is really what it comes down to, and I've been using this new, call it phrase, to help explain to those people who tend to forget the importance of what Google does, which is Google is not the elephant in the room. It's a herd of elephants. It's that big. You know, and it's, you know, like you're talking 90-some-odd% of all search takes place inside of Google. That doesn't mean that Bing doesn't have its place. It doesn't mean that other search engines don't have an impact. And I can see that these other search engines are working very hard at trying to displace Google. In fact, currently in the news, if you've been paying attention to what's happening in the States, Google's on the stand right now with a lot of the people, the federal government in the States is really questioning them a lot about their behavior, their tactics, and their ethics in business.
The retaining of information and sharing
there's,
of and
yeah,
selling
absolutely.
of and,
Yeah, exactly.
There's gathering of.
Gathering of information, possible misuse of information. There's a lot of things such as, you know, the way in which artificial intelligence is essentially being stilted towards or you know, towards essentially Facebook, Google, and Amazon. You know, the three big kings of data right now. And that's a bit of a concern for the future. And there's been calls even from some people saying that these companies should be broken apart. And I don't know how that would happen. But what we do know, and this is one of the things we can never forget, is that they're right now at the top of the heap. But they're, relatively speaking, in terms of business, newcomers. And beyond that, you look at some of the businesses that have been around for a long time that you thought would never go away. Exactly how big is IBM as a business brand in the household? There was a short period of time when IBM was a brand that people knew as a computer you would have in a small home office. You're not going to find that too often nowadays.
No, that's right.
Right? So there's changes that take place in the greater business community that are far bigger than we forget. We very quickly will forget how fast these changes take place. So will Google still be at the top of the heap 10 years, 15, 20 years from now? Probably not. I would suspect that there's going to be some evolving that takes place. And that's fine. But for now, we have to focus on what works today, because we can't get to tomorrow unless we deal with what's going on today. And the thing that we need to remember is that Google is still the single most important search engine in the marketplace. They're the first place that people go when looking for something that they don't have any information about. The second most important search engine after Google, Google owns it. It's YouTube, right? So the world of video is incredibly important, and YouTube being the single most important video search engine that there is out there. So we have to remember that those are the 2 points where research takes place the most. There's truth that some research is taking place inside of Facebook, but at a very small degree. It continues to be more of a community building, community space, whether it be through friends or family or business associates or that type of thing. Even if you belong to a business group and you want to communicate as a group, Facebook still has its place for that kind of organization. But you're not going to necessarily do research for something new there. Right?
Well, they don't make it particularly easy to research, do they? It's if you do think of something like a piece of software or something that you've heard about and you want to research,
you wouldn't think
on Facebook.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people wouldn't think of looking at it on Facebook. Even when you go to do a search in Facebook itself, it's really difficult to get specific answers for the things you're looking for. It doesn't really work.
Exactly.
It doesn't work. It certainly doesn't work like Google or YouTube.
That's it. So really, I do think in terms more of how do we get the message across that if you're in the business of selling a product or service to an audience that doesn't know anything about you, and also that there aren't current relationships that could connect you to those services, such as a friend or a referral, if you lack those opportunities to find what you're looking for, Google becomes pretty well the only place that people tend to go, generally speaking. Now, that doesn't mean that referrals don't work. Of course, I'm a big fan of referral and referral marketing. That's still, to me, in fact, the vast majority of the work that I recommend for local businesses is to build referral networks. That's a very, very important thing. And along with other methodologies, but there's still even a place for print. I still believe that print and billboard marketing and all those kinds of things, there's a place for those things. But in the mix overall, we have to think about what is that final point when someone's going to say, I just need that phone number for somebody to call them. You're not going to run to the localist, the nearest billboard to see whether or not it's got the phone number of the business you want to call. Not likely. Chances are you're going to pull out your phone and you're going to look them up. And here's the thing, is if you actually do look them up and you find them using their Google My Business page, and you click on the click to call on your Google My Business button that's actually on your phone, that'll register as a call on that business's Google My Business information sheet, where the info that they grab in there, the insights is what it's called. So that becomes a really powerful way of judging how successful Google is. And because mobile is 60-ish, depending on which industry, it varies from 45, 50 all the way up to about 75, 80% search happens now on mobile, especially from a ready to make a decision perspective. Mobile is a really important thing to measure with the call-through rates that comes through on the Google Insights.
Okay.
And that's just one of those small things that Google My Business continues to be really important about. And Google is continuing to drive more and more people to use their assets on Google My Business as the one point that they need to be able to find what they're looking for, as opposed to having to go to a website. There's even been on occasion some people saying that you could get away without having a website. I disagree with that. I think that a website is incredibly important. And in fact, actually, when you look at the inner workings of what SEO happens inside of a website, it's incredibly important. And there's no way you can tell your whole message without having a proper website nowadays for most businesses. That said, on your Google My Business page, you can show photos, you can have your click to call, you can have booking engine connection if you actually have that.
Short videos.
You can put videos. There's limitations to the videos. When you upload a video, it cannot be more than 100 megabytes in size. It works out to roughly about a 1 minute video. So it's it'll never be a big 4K production, but you can still put video up on your Google My Business page. So there's a lot of things that it's doing that almost replaces what some parts of what a website or a blog might do. So it's becoming more and more important. Now,
interesting that a lot of businesses don't even know that they've got one.
Yeah.
That's quite interesting.
The numbers are improving in terms of the number of businesses that have claimed and verified their Google My Business page. It's still a challenge. The challenge I'm beginning to see more and more of, though, in that is duplicate pages.
Okay.
Right? And in fact, I'm working with a client right now who we found for one business listing, there was 4 pages.
Wow.
Which is, how did that happen? Well, it was probably somebody, a staff member that thought, we're not on there. It could even be a member of the public who is part of this local guides program that Google now has. Because if you don't know anything about local guides, it's a program that Google put on basically to crowdsource data from people for free. Some people just really enjoy just putting stuff on Google just because they think that they're helping people.
Helping someone.
Yeah, and they may be, but they may actually be making things worse in some occasions. And what happens is if, let's say that you were looking for, let's say it's a gift shop, and that gift shop had a page, and but they never verified it. It was just on there from whatever source might be. But it's not ranking well, and the spelling of the gift shop might be a little unusual. Somebody else happens to buy from this gift shop, is a local guide, and decides hey, I'm going to help them out, and I'll put on a Places page, a Google My Business page for them. It'll become an additional second page that will be, again, a second page unverified, out of control from the business owner. And now that means that search results are actually getting split across 2 pages that are not even verified. You'll end up with possibly having people giving reviews to this business that lands on pages they don't have control over, which means The business doesn't know these reviews are there. They can't even say thank you if it's a good review, because you have to own or claim and verify the page to be able to respond to those reviews. So that becomes an issue. So making sure that there's only one Google My Business page per business, per location, is really, really important. So that's a current concern that I'm running into. It's part of the directory services that I provide, is to try to help solve that bit of a mess that can end up quite easily. And that does require sometimes having a bit of a chat with Google, where I actually get on the phone and have a chat with them about these problem listings, and we can work through sorting it out. Yeah, making sure we give them some clear instructions as to how that works. In some cases, you may have, for example, let's say we have a wholesaler that has a retail shop attached to that wholesale warehouse. Well, the wholesale business is not the same thing as the retail business. It may actually have the same business brand name, but one of them is direct to public facing and the other one is more distribution center. They have different functions. And on Google My Business, those become two separate pins for two separate purposes. And really, that's a legitimate reason for having two different listings, because they are operating differently. So therefore, you have to think in terms of how do you brand correctly that business name, such that if a review ends up on one business versus the other, it's at the right one. So if you're a consumer and you want to give that business a review, you want to make sure you end up on the right pin on the map. So sorting that out can also be a bit of a challenge too. Yeah.
So there's a few challenges.
Oh, and this is why now, can businesses solve these issues for themselves and by themselves? Absolutely, yes. It's not an impossibility. But it may take them an awful lot of time to do that on their own if they're not familiar with not making sure. What I see is people not explaining themselves clearly enough, in sufficient enough detail to make sure that Google solves the problem properly the first time. Sometimes you want to just say, can you just fix it for me? Well, that may be the worst way to explain something, because if you don't tell them what they're trying to fix, what the context of that business is, Google is very likely to not understand what you're looking for and make it worse. So yeah, it's important to make sure we get that right.